Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! The deep scarlet envelope, a striking anomaly, lurked untouched on the coffee table for days. Mario Romano, his curiosity piqued, recognized the calligraphic curves of his beloved Veronica, though this time they conveyed an air of finality. Their relationship, it seemed, had reached its denouement. As he retrieved the envelope amidst the pattering rain, Mario's heart quickened. Expecting a heartfelt letter, he was baffled to find a pageant confirmation. His name, address, and number stared back at him. Veronica's parting gift, a nudge towards new endeavors. Break a leg! The form indicated the pageant was in 6 weeks. Registration fees had been paid. His blood boiled as he crumpled the paper in his fist. "You've got to be kidding me!" He threw the balled-up form across the room. His phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Veronica.
"Got my little gift. Figured since you always criticized my pageant days, you should see how hard it actually is. Don't worry, I told them you're very excited about your drag debut."
Mario ran his hands through his short brown hair, feeling the anger rise in his chest. This was exactly like her, taking their private arguments and turning them into public humiliation. He remembered their fights about her pageant background. He'd never understood why she'd spent years parading around in swimsuits and evening gowns, answering inane questions about world peace. It had seemed shallow to him. She'd called him judgmental. Now, this was her parting shot. He paced the apartment, each step fueling his anger. Then a thought struck him. What if he actually did it? What if, instead of retreating in embarrassment, he turned her cruel joke back on her? "Fine," he muttered to himself. "You want a show? I'll give you a damn show." He retrieved the crumpled form, smoothed it out, and called the number listed. "Miss Downtown Pageant Office. How may I help you?" "Hi, this is Mario Romano. I'm calling about my registration." "Oh, Mr. Romano. Yes, we have you on our contestant list. Your sponsor mentioned you're new to pageantry. We are so excited to have you joining our inclusive event this year." Mario almost hung up, but something made him continue. "Could you tell me what I need to prepare?" "Of course! You'll need an evening gown, talent performance, and interview outfit. We'll email you the full packet. The preliminary coaching sessions start next week." After hanging up, Mario sat in stunned silence. This wasn't just some small joke. This was a real pageant with multiple events and coaching sessions. What had he gotten himself into? His phone buzzed again. A group text from Veronica to their mutual friends. "Mario's about to become famous. Ask him about his upcoming stage debut." That settled it. He would do this, and he would do it well enough to wipe the smug expression off Veronica's face. The next morning, Mario called in sick to his accounting job and drove to a boutique on the other side of town where nobody would recognize him. A bell chimed as he entered the shop, filled with sequined gowns and accessories. "Can I help you find something?" The shop owner appeared, a woman in her 50s with short silver hair. Mario cleared his throat. "I need an evening gown." "For your girlfriend? Wife?" she asked, reaching for a measuring tape. "For me, actually." His face burned. "It's for a special event." To his surprise, the woman didn't flinch. "I see. What kind of look are you going for?" "Something that says, 'I didn't want to be here, but now I'm going to win'?" She laughed. "I know exactly what you need. I'm Eleanor, by the way." "Mario, though I guess I'll need a different name for this. Eleanor studied him carefully. You have good bone structure, narrow waist, broad shoulders, but we can work with that. What's the occasion, if you don't mind my asking? He hesitated, then explained the situation. Eleanor's eyes sparkled with interest. Revenge pageantry! I love it. Well, we need to transform you, dear. Have you thought about a name? He hadn't. No idea. You need something elegant, but with strength. Something unforgettable. Annika, he said suddenly, surprising himself. It had been his grandmother's name, a strong-willed Italian woman who never took nonsense from anyone. Annika, Eleanor repeated. Perfect. Now, Annika needs a knockout gown. 3 hours later, Mario left with a shimmering blue evening gown with intricate beadwork, temporarily pinned for later alterations. Eleanor had also connected him with a friend who could help with makeup, and promised to help more in the coming weeks. At home, he hung the dress on his closet door and stared at it. The reality of what he was doing suddenly hit him. Was he really going through with this? His phone chimed with another text from a college friend. Dude, Veronica says you're doing a beauty pageant? What's that about? His resolve strengthened. He typed back, just wait and see. The next few weeks became a crash course in femininity. Eleanor introduced him to Dominic, a makeup artist who specialized in stage makeup. Together, they transformed his small living room into pageant boot camp.
No, darling, not like that,
Dominic corrected, watching Mario wobble in crimson stiletto heels. Heel to toe, small steps. Think of walking along an invisible straight line. Mario practiced until his feet screamed in protest. The shoes were torture devices, but he refused to give up.
Why would anyone do this voluntarily?
He groaned after an hour.
Because, when done right, it makes your legs look amazing and gives you power,
Dominic explained.
Speaking of which, we need to work on your posture. Shoulders back, chin up.
Each evening after work, Mario practiced walking, sitting, and even standing correctly. He learned to apply foundation, contour, and eyeshadow. His bathroom counter, once sparse, now overflowed with cosmetics. 3 weeks before the pageant, Eleanor and Dominic arrived with another surprise.
We need to discuss your hair,
Eleanor said, setting down a large case. Mario ran a hand through his short brown hair.
What about it? For the full effect, you need length,
Dominic explained, opening the case to reveal a beautiful brown wig with soft waves cascading past the shoulders.
I can't wear that,
Mario protested. Trust us, Eleanor insisted. Once we style it properly, it will look completely natural. They spent the evening teaching him how to properly put on and secure the wig, then style it. When they finished, Mario barely recognized himself in the mirror. The soft brown waves framed his face, softening his jawline and accentuating his eyes.
I look...
He trailed off, unable to find the right word. Beautiful, Eleanor finished for him. Now let's try the full look. 2 hours later, Mario, or rather Annika, stood before the mirror in the blue gown, makeup perfectly applied, and brown hair styled in elegant waves. The transformation was astonishing. Veronica is going to lose her mind, Dominic grinned. For the talent portion, Mario decided on a piano piece, a skill from childhood lessons his mother had insisted upon. He practiced Debussy's Clair de Lune daily, his fingers remembering the patterns his mind had nearly forgotten. With 1 week remaining, the reality of performing in public loomed large. His confidence wavered.
"I can't do this,"
he told Eleanor during their final fitting. "Everyone's going to laugh at me." "Do you know why most people fail at things like this?" she asked, adjusting the dress's shoulder straps. "They worry about looking foolish. But the real winners are the ones who commit completely. If you go out there half-hearted, you will look foolish. If you embrace Annika fully, you'll be magnificent." "What if Veronica was right? What if this whole thing proves I'm just a judgmental jerk who can't do what she did?" Eleanor pinned the last section of the gown. "Then you'll have learned something valuable. But I don't think that's what's going to happen." The night of the pageant arrived with unexpected clarity. Mario found himself strangely calm as he entered the backstage area of the downtown theater. He carried a garment bag containing his gown and a small suitcase with everything else he needed. The dressing room buzzed with nervous energy as 12 contestants prepared. Some gave him curious glances, but most were too focused on their own preparations. A tall woman with striking features approached him. "You must be Annika. I'm Regina, the organizing director. Your sponsor mentioned you're new to pageants."
"Yes, very new,"
he replied, his voice higher and softer than usual, a technique Dominic had taught him.
"Well, welcome. The schedule's on the wall, and if you need anything, just ask any of the volunteers. Good luck."
The next hours passed in a blur of preparations. Mario transformed into Annika with methodical precision, each step now familiar through weeks of practice. Foundation, contour, eye makeup, lips, the brown wig secure and styled, finally the shimmering blue gown. When he stood up and checked the mirror, he barely recognized himself. The person looking back wasn't Mario pretending to be someone else. It was Annika, confident, poised, and remarkably beautiful. 5 minutes to opening number! A stagehand called. Mario took a deep breath. Showtime! The stage lights were blinding as the contestants lined up for introductions. The audience was a dark mass beyond the lights, but Mario knew Veronica was out there. She had texted earlier. "Can't wait to see your big debut! Brought some friends!" The thought that once made him furious now fueled his determination. Each contestant stepped forward to introduce themselves. When his turn came, he glided to the microphone with the precision Eleanor had drilled into him.
"Good evening. I'm Annika Romano from right here in our beautiful downtown."
His voice carried across the theater, steady and smooth.
"I believe transformation is the most powerful form of self-discovery."
The audience applauded. As he returned to his position, he caught glimpses of surprised faces among the other contestants. They hadn't expected this level of poise from the novice. The evening wore on through the talent competition, where his rendition of Claire de Lune earned enthusiastic applause. The swimsuit portion had been modernized to a fitness wear segment, which he navigated with unexpected grace in black leggings and a tasteful athletic top. During a costume change, he overheard 2 contestants talking.
"Who is this Annika? She's actually really good." "I heard it's her first pageant. Beginner's luck, I guess." "No, that's skill. Someone trained her well."
The comment brought a smile to his face as he prepared for the evening gown competition. When Annika glided onto the stage in the shimmering blue gown that caught every ray of light, the audience fell momentarily silent before erupting in applause. The months of practice crystallized in those moments as she moved with fluid confidence, each step precise, each turn graceful. From the corner of his eye, Mario spotted Veronica in the 3rd row, her mouth slightly open in shock. Beside her sat several of their mutual friends, looking equally stunned. The sight gave him a surge of satisfaction as he completed his walk and posed elegantly before exiting. The finalists were announced, and to his amazement, Annika Romano was among the top 5. This meant facing the interview question, the part he'd dreaded most. The other finalists answered questions about environmental issues and educational reform with rehearsed responses. When Mario's turn came, he approached the microphone in his blue gown, brown hair cascading over one shoulder.
Annika, your registration states that this is your first pageant. What has this experience taught you about yourself?
The question hung in the air as he considered his answer. In that moment, something shifted. This wasn't just about Veronica anymore.
I entered this competition because of someone else's expectations,
he began, his voice clear and steady.
I wanted to prove them wrong about me, but along the way, I discovered something unexpected. That transformation isn't just physical. When we step outside the boundaries others create for us, we find pieces of ourselves we never knew existed.
He paused, aware of the complete silence in the theater.
This experience taught me that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about acknowledging your fear and moving forward anyway. And most importantly, I learned that sometimes the person you need to prove yourself to isn't someone else. It's you.
The audience erupted in applause. Even the judges looked impressed, nodding and making notes on their scorecards. Back in the wings, waiting for final deliberations, several contestants approached with compliments and questions about his training. The competitor he'd expected to endure had somehow become a peer. The finalists returned to the stage for the announcement of winners. Mario's heart pounded as the third runner-up, then second, and finally first runner-up were announced. None of them Annika. And the winner of this year's Miss Downtown pageant is... The MC paused dramatically. Annika Romano! The theater exploded with applause. Mario stood frozen until the contestant beside him gave him a gentle push forward. In a daze, he accepted the crown, sash, and bouquet, smiling through tears that threatened to ruin his carefully applied makeup. During the victory walk, he caught Veronica's expression, a complex mixture of shock, disbelief, and something that might have been respect. Backstage after the ceremony, amid congratulations from the other contestants, Mario checked his phone. A text from Veronica waited. I don't know how you did that, but it was actually impressive. Dinner tomorrow to talk? He smiled to himself, but didn't respond immediately. Tonight belonged to Annika. The local newspaper ran a small feature the next day. Newcomer takes crown in surprising Miss Downtown upset. The article praised Annika's natural poise and refreshing authenticity. Mario sat in his apartment, still wearing the crown, surrounded by flowers and the blue gown draped over a chair. The question loomed. What now? The pageant was over. He'd proven his point. Logically, Annika should return to being just a character he'd played for revenge. Yet something had changed. In becoming Annika, he'd discovered aspects of himself he'd never acknowledged. A grace, a confidence, a form of self-expression that felt surprisingly authentic. His phone rang. It was Eleanor. Congratulations, Queen! I just saw the newspaper. How does it feel?
Surreal, he admitted. I'm not sure what happens now.
That depends. Was this just about getting back at your ex? Or did you discover something more? The question hung in the air. I think maybe both. I never expected to enjoy it, to be good at it. The pageant circuit would welcome you, you know. With your natural talent, you could go far. I don't know if I want to do more pageants, he said, truthfully. But I don't think I'm ready to say goodbye to Annika either. Then don't. Figure out what parts of this experience meant something to you, and carry those forward. After they hung up, Mario carefully removed the wig and makeup. As his familiar face emerged in the mirror, he realized it no longer felt quite as familiar. Or rather, it no longer felt quite as complete. He met Veronica for coffee the next day, arriving as Mario, though he'd spent extra time on his appearance, styling his brown hair carefully and selecting a well-fitted navy button-down shirt and slacks. I didn't think you'd actually come, she said when he sat down. I almost didn't. She fidgeted with her cup. You were amazing up there. I never thought. I mean, it was supposed to be a joke. I know what it was supposed to be. So why did you do it? Just to spite me? He considered the question. At first, yes, but then it became something else. What do you mean? I discovered I liked becoming someone else. Someone more confident, more expressive. And maybe that someone wasn't entirely different from who I already was. Just parts I never let myself explore. Veronica studied him with newfound interest. So, what are you saying? That you're going to keep doing pageants? That you're going to keep being Annika? I don't know about more pageants. But Annika? Yes, I think she's part of me now. The conversation ended with no reconciliation, but something better, mutual understanding. As they parted ways, Mario realized the crown had given him something more valuable than revenge, permission to redefine himself. In the weeks that followed, Mario declined 3 pageant invitations, but accepted a request to appear as Annika at a charity fashion show. He invested in his own wig of lustrous brown waves and built a modest wardrobe of dresses and accessories. His accounting firm raised eyebrows when photos from the pageant circulated, but after an awkward meeting with HR that resulted in unexpected support, he found himself becoming something of an office celebrity. Clients who had once found him forgettable now remembered him instantly, the accountant who was also Miss Downtown. 4 months after the pageant, Mario stood before his bathroom mirror, applying foundation with practiced ease. The brown wig waited on its stand, ready for tonight's gallery opening, where he'd been invited as a special guest. His blue dress, not the pageant gown, but a simpler cocktail dress, hung ready on the door. As he worked, he reflected on the strange journey that had begun with an envelope of spite and led to this new chapter. Annika was no longer a disguise to hide behind, or a character to play for revenge. She had become an authentic expression of parts of himself he'd never been brave enough to acknowledge. His phone chimed with a text from Eleanor.
Car will pick you up at 7. Can't wait to see you shine tonight.
Mario smiled at his reflection as he finished his makeup. It wasn't about becoming someone different anymore. It was about becoming more fully himself. He carefully positioned the brown wig, adjusting until it looked perfectly natural, the waves framing his face just so. Then he applied the final touches: earrings, a delicate necklace, and a hint of perfume. Annika smiled back at him from the mirror, confident and serene. She represented not a rejection of who he had been, but an evolution, the person he was becoming by embracing all aspects of himself without fear or judgment. The doorbell rang. His ride was here. Ready? He asked his reflection. The answer came without hesitation. Yes, she was ready. For tonight, and whatever lay beyond. The unexpected journey that had begun as an act of revenge had become something far more meaningful, a path to authenticity that couldn't have been discovered any other way. Annika grabbed her clutch, took one final look in the mirror, and walked toward the door with the confidence of someone who had found her true self in the most unexpected place, by becoming someone else. As she stepped out into the evening, the setting sun caught the highlights in her brown hair, creating a halo effect. The blue dress swayed gently with each step, and her crimson heels clicked confidently against the pavement. The car waited at the curb, the driver holding the door open with a respectful nod.
Miss Romano?
Yes, she answered with a smile, no hesitation in her voice. That's me. As the car pulled away from the apartment building, Annika looked back briefly at the life she had known before, the safe, predictable existence that had never quite felt complete. The pageant had been meant as humiliation, but had instead become liberation. What had begun as Mario's revenge had become Annika's beginning. The gallery lights shimmered ahead, promising an evening of art, conversation, and new connections. But the real masterpiece wasn't hanging on any wall. It was the transformation that had allowed her to finally become whole. The car slowed to a stop. Camera flashes greeted her as she emerged. Someone called her name, her real name now. Annika! She smiled and stepped forward into her future, leaving behind the limitations of the past. The journey had never really been about winning a crown. It had been about discovering that sometimes, to find yourself, you first have to become someone else.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!